Alrighty. Well, it is Tuesday night, not Monday, Tuesday night, and welcome to a special impromptu episode of Communications on Cigars. Coming to you live from Studio M today, which is the Marriott, where we are staying at right now, or where I am staying at, here for that great, big, huge event, which I'm down here for a couple different things. Everybody knows me. They know I wear a couple different hats and a couple different things. Well, guess what? That's what tonight is all about. Is we are going to be talking about, I guess the biggest thing I guess we could describe is traveling with radios and cigars. Now, I know some people talking about radios and traveling with them and that kind of thing like that. And I thought this was kind of a good episode for one of the things. I do like making these episodes. I do like doing these episodes. I do. It's fun. Get to talk about communications, get to talk about a little bit about cigars, but a lot of the interaction. I love the interaction in the chats here and stuff like that. So it's really kind of fun here. Plus also too, it gives me a test run for using this setup for other financial purposes, I guess, for the other job and everything like that, tomorrow as well as later on this weekend here. So with that, I figured, hey, great test run is to go ahead and do this. So yeah, well, might as well do it on there. So, but I thought tonight's episode though was kind of a cool one because a lot of people have always asked, and I've always said about, hey, going through security, traveling with radios, what can you do, all those kind of things like that, what kind of things if people's had problems and stuff. And so that's where tonight's episode is going to lie in there. Now, before I dive into the episode and do a few things like this, I'm going to go ahead and give myself a little bit of fame, okay? I don't know if this is the aspect of jokingly that I've hit stardom or what for my 200 and I don't even know how many subscribers I have here. Should check that real quick. But anyways, for my fame, and in the room here, actually the reason it's so bright is one, I'm using a different camera than I use at home, and two, I'm looking up at my screen, which you'll see here, and oh dear God, it's horrible, and I'll explain why. Because guess what? I'm famous. I went to the YouTube channel on my TV in my room. And I went and I just started typing in there, and then boom, all these popped up right away. So like I said, I don't know if that means I'm famous, if that means I'm not famous, or if I'm just famous in my own mind. I really don't know. So who knows what the deal is? And that's my pat on the back with 269 subscribers. I don't do this once again for the subscriptions. I really don't. I just thought it was kind of hilarious that it was like, wow, it just popped up on the screen up there and stuff like that. But I will tell you this, the lighting is not doing me justice here because the lighting for the TV is coming out pretty hard. And I got that, and I do not look good on this camera. Oh my God, I got to get some makeup here or something like that. Alrighty, so with that, let's go ahead, move over to, hey, you got an idea for the show, you got a suggestion for the show, you got something you want to talk about on the show, further questions or stuff like that, don't be afraid to hit me up on the email. As you see, our email here is communications-cigars@jjkcom.com. Once again, communications-cigars@jjkcom.com. JJK Communications does go ahead and sponsor the show here. That's the nice part about it. We can go ahead and get some sponsorship on there to allow us to do a couple different things. When we get back to Studio B at the house, you're going to go ahead and see a couple of those things that are going to be changed and made a little bit on there. Now, programming notes for the next couple weeks, I will tell you, yeah, I did kind of an impromptu on a Tuesday night. I think I might be cutting into someone else's show and stuff like that. I do apologize. It's not a new date and time for anybody. If anybody's going to go ahead and ask on there, it is just basically a situation of, hey, Couldn't do it last night because I had to get up early for a flight. Might as well do it again. So, see, a couple of people are popping up in chat. So, good evening to Ben Manley. Good evening to KK6USY, Ham Radio Adventures, Chuck, James, KI5OEB, Brian Cherry, good evening. Hey, KG5NUB. And then Chuck, KB8YIT on there. So thanks for everybody kind of checking in once again, impromptu on there. Now, let's get into the core of tonight's topic, traveling with radios and cigars. So I'll start out in the cigar part. And one of the things which you obviously do when you have cigars, you want to keep them at a nice temperature. You want to go ahead and you also want to keep them at a nice humidity. And that is where I have my little travel pouch, my little humidor, travel humidor. Yes, it does look like a golf bag. Do I golf? I used to. Would I love to do it again? Yes, I would, but one thing at a time. So the nice thing about a travel humidor, you're going to find out there's a couple different types of travel humidors out there. This actually is a very nice one that my wife got me. A couple things on there. First of all, it actually has a hydrometer. Yeah, hydrometer. Tells you basically the humidity in there. And on this one here, I actually had it at 70% humidity, but then we had some people open it up and go back to it. So this is nice because it tells you what your humidity is inside your humidor. You want to keep your cigars at a nice 70% humidity on there. That's the perfect temperature. You can go down to 60. You can go up to maybe 80. They say really it shouldn't be no less than 65, no greater than 75. 70 is perfect, but maybe 5% on either side on there. Now, nice thing about this humidor is a couple things. One, it actually is kind of a nice deep well in there. As you see, I do have a couple of different cigars in there, one for each day of the week that I'm down there. The other thing I'll kind of point out on there too right away, it's got a nice cedar lining in there. So all around there, it's a nice cedar lining on there. But it's really cool is the humidifier, basically. So what this is, basically you put drops of water in this here and it literally soaks it up and it keeps it nice and humid for you. Now, in the front, and I'm not going to keep this open too long because I don't want to lose all of my humidity. On the nice front pouch here, going to open it up. You got a nice little area there. You can put matches. Well, I can't take matches on the plane, so went along and bought a cheap lighter, bought my little cigar punch on there, and it stays nice and zipped in there. Nice thing about it, it's like the size of a thermos on there, and it fit nicely in my backpack on there. So, not a big deal on there. So, that is talking about the communications portion of tonight. Let's talk about the radio portion of tonight on there. And I see a few people more jumped in there. So good evening, John, VE5JHN. NoCo Tech, good evening as always. Hey, the Smoking Ape, good evening on there. And Robert, W8RRI. I make my own cigars and travel with them all the time. Oh, Robert, yeah. And, you know, that takes class there on there to go ahead and be able to get your own cigars for making them on there and then traveling with them. And it's nice. This is the first time I've actually done a real travel with them because normally I might go up to my dad's or something a couple hours away from my house or something. Not a bad deal, but I was figuring, you know what? This is a big one. We're going in the plane. We're going there and everything like that on there. So, and good evening. I see Liberty Cave popped in there too. Good evening. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about traveling with your handhelds. Not a big science to it, folks. Not really a big science whatsoever. I'm going to give you actually what I call a couple of, for sake of a better term, things to think about. These aren't opinions, but they're just things to think about on there. So first of all, things to think about on your radios. First of all, it doesn't matter what kind of radio you have. And I'm talking amateur, I'm talking business, I'm talking marine, I'm talking aviation, I'm talking whatever radio you have. First of all, you got to think of what you have for a battery in the radio on there. Lithium-ion batteries, once again, they can't go into the hull. It's just like of the plane. So people, you know, it's like, oh, if you have those spare battery packs, if you have those other things like that on there, you definitely want to keep them in your carry-on on there. You can't transport them down there. Now, a lot of people say, well, why can't you transport it down there? Well, because it has to do with the cold. It gets really cold at the bottom of that plane. As a matter of fact, when I actually got into Orlando here, even though it's only 55 degrees and rain, but it's a lot better than when I left this morning at 17 degrees and cold and snow. But anyways, it was coming in off the belt my luggage had condensation on the outside of it because it was so cold in that hall. I mean, I looked at one time when we were up in the air like 34,000 feet, 35,000 feet, whatever. And I looked and it tells you outside temperature, like I'm going to go outside and check, but it was like negative 65. And I'm like, okay, that bottom of the plane is not heated on there. So that's why the batteries have to do that. But consider your batteries that you were going to be taking with. This one here is a lithium ion pack. So definitely has to go in my carry-on. You don't want to do that, especially if you're traveling too. Here's another thing. You're traveling, sometimes they'll go and they'll be like, hey, we're out of room. Can we go ahead and can you want to check a bag? Yeah, you got to think about these. People think of like the vape, the e-cigarettes. People think of like the battery. I got one in my backpack here, but like the kind that, you can charge, like the spare power banks and stuff like that on there. Yeah, you got to think about these big time on there. Not too much of a deal. I've had people, and I've even asked myself, saying, hey, should they be attached to the radio or should they be separate? Should the contacts be taped? What should be happening? And the consensus, which is actually kind of interesting because I wouldn't think that the TSA, no offense against the TSA because I don't want them knocking on my hotel door here, but the consensus with the TSA is saying as long as the battery is in a safe and stable safe and stable condition. And I said, what do you mean by that? I said, is that something that's kind of there? And they said, no. They said basically like, okay, if there's going to be a chance that it's going to spark or arc, you got to go ahead and you should take them off on there. If you're going to be using them separately and they're going to bang around, maybe go ahead and put tape over the connectors and secure them from banging around. So common sense that if you really think about it, it makes sense on there. Now, the other thing, too, is that it kind of comes into play is that I actually like spare battery pack. So I actually have an alkaline battery pack, a AA battery pack on there that actually here, it's kind of one of these right there. Put in your 3 alkaline battery packs, and then you are good to go on there. Do I have to do anything special with those? No, alkaline batteries are pretty safe on there. However, once again, I would treat them, or once again, not I, but it was suggested to me that if I'm doing alkaline batteries and they are not attached to a device or in a device or powering a device and stuff like that and separate on there, then make sure you don't bang around or stuff like that, obviously. The last thing you want is a 35,000 feet in the air electrical battery fire. Taking place. Even though it's not super warm down here, it is pretty dry down here for me. But anyways, so that's that. One of the biggest things I've been lucky. I had a situation one time where my radio actually was flagged because it went through and they did that odor test thing when it went through the conveyor belt or through the x-ray, and it aired out on there. And they had to come and test and swab it. But otherwise than that, I've not had an issue. But I do prepare myself for the radios for going with it. Because here's why. You have to understand, the TSA people there, they may not be familiar with radio communications. They may not be familiar with our radios. They could see these radios as a threat. Okay? Do we know it's a threat? No, we know it's not a threat. But especially if you're traveling with non-amateur radios, like if you're traveling with Motorola's or Kenwoods or Bendix Kings or whatever the case may be, you might want to go ahead and have some backup resources on there. So I'd say the first backup resource you should have is the documentation of what may be in that radio. Now, this is a suggestion. This was suggested to me by other people and kind of a culmination of things. But don't be afraid to have a listing of the frequencies that are in that radio. Now, is that important? Can you get by without it? Yeah, you can get by without it. But, think of it this way. They are a federal agency, right? It's one of the three-letter federal agencies. Think of it this way. They see maybe hundreds of thousands of people a day through TSA, through checkpoint, through these things like this and everything like that. And all of a sudden you have a person that comes through and they have a radio that, everybody knows what a Motorola radio is. I don't care if you're radio literate or not. everybody knows if you say the word, Motorola, people think of police radios or two-way radios or stuff, because that's just how Motorola is synonymous. Or they think of Motorola radios in general, because like FRS radios or whatever that they have. But this is where I'm saying is that don't be the bad guy, be the good guy. Don't be that guy, as they sometimes will say, and just have possibly your frequencies with it. If you're an amateur radio operator, have your amateur radio license on you or have reference to it. Alrighty. In my phone, I have like the copies you can go on and kind of download digitally on a PDF. They say, copy on it or whatever. But I have them in my phone in PDF format that if someone was to ever take a look at my radio, if I'm traveling with different radios, they're going to go like, sir, why do you have these radios? I'm an amateur radio operator. I am a GMRS licensee holder. I am a business radio holder. Those kind of things like that. Then you can open up your phone. You can say, hey, here you go. Here's what it is. Or if you don't want to carry it in your phone, have it as the official pieces of paper on there. They're going to want to see the documentation to make sure that it's nothing, problematic on there or anything like that whatsoever. These are just things to think about when going through. Now, one of the things that you really can get yourself into a lot of hot water with, and I've actually seen this happen to people on there, and it's kind of goofy, but when you're in the terminal, that's one thing. Alrighty. Sitting at the gate, I've played with my amateur radios at the terminal. I've played with scanners at the terminal. I've told a joke where I was doing one of my other famous, I guess, kind of per se jobs on there, and I was playing with the radio and talking on the radio and was connected with wires to the computer and blah 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 blah. And long story short is that the airport police and security and everybody came around, and they quickly noticed this large guy sweating in the LA heat, even though it's supposed to be the airport, talking on a radio, sitting at a terminal. You know what? Yeah, I'm glad that they went over and made contact with me, because that was suspicious as all hell. But then when I went along and I told them, hey, here's who I am, and I had my business card. That's kind of the next thing too, is if you are doing this for a business, if you're doing this for something like that, just give them your card, or think about having a business card on hand, especially if you're doing it for work. That way I gave them, here's my business card. Here's what I'm doing. I'm talking on this radio. I'm an amateur radio licensed operator. Here's my call sign. And you know what? I was even nice. I said, if this is going to be a problem, I could stop stuff. Once they looked at who the card was and they saw him so forthcoming with the information, it was like, oh, okay, cool. Hey, fine. No problem. What we wanted to do. And I think one of them was a ham, if I remember correctly, or knew someone who was a ham. And it was all like, done. Not a problem whatsoever. So it was kind of a situation where it was like, you know what? Crisis is avoided. You take the high road. You do the big road over and everything like that on there. And then that way someone can't go ahead and complain and saying, like, oh, wait a minute here. You're trying to, you're infringing on my free speech and now communicate. No. Pick your battles. These are simple things you don't need to pick your battles with. Okay. Now, so once again, that's in the terminal. Now, when we get onto a plane, very, 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 very different story. Very, very different story. You need to be getting permission from the captain. You need to be understanding that now you're on a plane, now you're on a vessel, whatever you want to go ahead and say, that sitting on a plane, pulling out a radio and playing with it, yeah, this day and age, that's not cool, man. That's not really cool. Talk to the captain about it. I had the fortunate opportunity once to be flying out of Minneapolis, and I was sitting at the gate, and I had a tire on that showed that I was an amateur radio operator. And the pilot walked past me one time, and I kind of saw it and didn't pay any attention to it. Oh, okay, person walked by, I happened to be a pilot, woohoo. But then all of a sudden, the pilot walked past me a second time. I felt that he stopped, and I kind of turned around and looked, and he's coming up to me, and I'm like, uh-oh. And he goes, hey, I see in your jacket, blah, 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 or, da-da-da-da-da. I'm an amateur radio operator, too. And he was an amateur radio operator close by, like out of the little cross area on there. And I can't remember his call, and I feel so bad about remembering that. But he gave me his call and everything, and I said, oh, are you the captain? He goes, yeah, da-da-da-da-da-da. And I asked him that time, I said, what is your take about radios on the plane? Like, can I take my radio out? And there he goes, if they clear it with us, then we don't usually have a problem. And if you got a scanner and you're listening, it's not usually a big deal and stuff like that. They do kind of frown upon that. And the reason that they do frown upon it is because they may not know you at all. In this case, he happened to be ham. I happen to be a ham. But it's like, it's kind of suspicious. And I have to agree with him on that. But once again, ask the crew, ask the pilot what goes on. I know that I've talked to different hams on there that have actually told me that when they fly, they actually like to bring a shortwave radio, and then they ask, "Hey, can I listen to shortwave radio?" Because you're way up in the air, and you can, they like to hear the different shortwave radio stations on there. But it's common courtesy. I guess this is what it really kind of is all boiling down to. Common courtesy. We are relatively short in our travel spans on there. I mean, yeah, I had to get to the airport early, so I was there 2 hours before my flight, and then by the time I got done and everything like that, my whole adventure took me 7 hours, maybe 8, because the rental car company was an idiot. But I mean, so 7 to 8 hours. If I'm that detrimental that I can't be without my radio for 7 to 8 hours, I think I have issues. Okay. Well, I got issues. Okay. I don't know if my wife is watching, but I got issues. But I'm talking about issues with not using a radio. So these are just things to think about, because we all want to play. We all want to play nice. We want to be respectful in the community. And I know I'm talking a lot about amateur radio, but I think this also translates over to the business world and stuff like that on there too. GMRS, especially on there too. GMRS transceivers, I think, are a little bit nicer in play because there's more and more GMRS transmitters that are coming out, or radios that are coming out. I see, like I said, right now I'm looking in there, Hey Liberty, who else did I miss? Hey Tio, how you doing there on there? Nico, good to see you in there too. But the reason I looked real quick is because I think Chuck maybe did a video, Tio, Ape, and did Ham Radio Dude do a video on them, I think. But now that there's radios that are coming out that are specifically GMRS based, that's a little bit nicer because those are easier to prove that they are GMRS based as compared to having a Motorola UHF HT that has GMRS frequencies in there, that also has maybe the ability to have business frequencies in there, all those kinds of things like that on there. And so they're really kind of nice that you got it on there. But once again, anytime I'm carrying a radio, I always have either manufacturer's website. Amateur radios are nice for that fact because you can just go to the manufacturer's website and usually download a PDF brochure. And provided the radio isn't modified, because this can be another sticky situation. I'm not the radio police. You want to modify your radios? Modify your radios. I don't care. That's you, not me. That's you. But, if they're not modified, if they're hammy talkies and stuff, you could say, hey, I'm going to transmit 144 to 148 or 430 to 450 or whatever the case may be. So there you go. You can go ahead and, kind of prove and say it on to there. So food for thought, once again, just food for thought. Like I said, I've never had an issue with it. I've actually had, it's been funny, I've actually carried either a little bit smaller different radios and stuff, and I've actually had like TSA when they took my bag through the x-ray. It's a crapshoot, to be honest with you. If it comes out and it's going to go off the sideline, I have TSA pre-check on there. I just left my laptops in my bag. I left my 2 radios in my bag. I left all that on there, and boom, just sent it down in there. They didn't have a problem. I thought for sure I was going to be random bag check John, but I wasn't, and they just there. Other times I've taken everything out and they've sent me through to pick it out. But the point of the story was that the TSA agent one time picked it up and looked at it, and she says, these radios are smaller and probably actually work better than ours. And they were using the BedX King. So I thought that was hilarious that she said that on there. So I'm just reading some of the comments here. So that's kind of just food for thought on there. And you know what? It wouldn't be a Communications and Cigars if we didn't have our new last section of the episode. You know what bends my antenna? You know what really bends my antenna is when we, as proper, responsible radio operators, take the time to go and package our equipment and package our radios if we're putting them into a suitcase and make note of it. I experienced once upon a time traveling to an event, and this is going back before COVID, BC as I call it now, probably around 2018, maybe, about 2018 I think it was. And I went to an event in the southern part of the United States, and I came back and I had purchased some radios of my own from some of the dealers that were there. And I properly put them into my suitcase, and I properly did this, and I properly did this, and I did everything. And I made sure that the box was sealed in there. I even went so far as to make a copy at the hotel of the receipt and tape it onto the box of the radios, because I was concerned that when they go through and x-ray the bags, that they're going to see a bunch of boxes, or through the x-rays, a bunch of different wires and stuff like that on there. When I picked up my bag from the baggage claim, I was completely appalled by this 3-letter agency, which we will call the TSA, if in case you were wondering. And my bag was unzipped, and the radios had been molested, for sake of a better term. One of the flaps on the box was not just open, but like almost ripped open, and I know that didn't happen during transport or anything like that. And I went to the TSA official at the gate, and I said, I'd like to speak to a superior. And the person says, what about it? And I said, I'd like to file a complaint. Well, you can give me this, you can give, here he gives me this thing to file a complaint. He says, no, I want to talk to your superior. Now, I wasn't going on Karen mode or anything like that, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to convey saying how I've spent a couple of $100, well, okay, I don't think my wife's watching, a fair amount of $100 to purchase this radio equipment, and then to have it manhandled when the receipt is right on there showing that it was purchased, what it is, and stuff like that on there. Furthermore, how hard is it to open up a box? Really? How hard is it to open up a box? But nevertheless, I said, so if my radio equipment is at a loss because of it, what should I do? What should I do in that case? What should I do in the future? And he says, well, did you have a note in there saying it's radio equipment? So in front of I proceed to open up the zipper further and pull out the note, a piece of paper that I printed on there saying, hey, guess what? Basically summarizing, these are two-way radio pieces of equipment for amateur radio purposes. They are FCC type accepted for the operational bands of U.S. amateur, like region one. I did some very nice wordsmithing on it and a whole thing like that on there. And I even said, if you have questions, my name is John Crook. My telephone number is this. My flight number is this. Please contact me, and I will be more than happy to go ahead and tell you or talk to you about what it is before anything gets held up or damaged or anything like that. And guess what? The guy blew me off. So I guess what really bends my antenna in this kind of thing is the disrespect or the due regards where we, as amateur radio operators who try, or even radio operators, I'm saying amateur because it's really amateur based tonight, but any radio operators that take the time to properly package the radio, proof, and everything like that, and you can't give two bleeps about it and you just want to manhandle it, that kind of upset me. And that's what really bends my antenna for this evening. So I want to go up and I'm hitting the radio. So angry, I'm taking it out on the radios. So that's tonight's episode. I'm not going to keep people long here because it is getting late on the East Coast here. And, I have jet lag. Just kidding. It's only an hour difference from where I live in the Midwest. But I do have a busy week coming here with the different hats that I wear and stuff like that. I want to go ahead and I want to say to everybody that is out there watching my show or might be watching your shows, hey, if you want to see what amateur radio is all about, you want to see Hamcation, which I think is possibly maybe the second biggest ham fest in the U.S. I don't know. What's people's opinions real quick? Is Hamcation the second biggest or not? I don't know. Anyways, tune into the other people's channels. There's a lot of the YouTube community that is out there, people that we go ahead and look and talk to. I know the different shows that people come to watch my shows. You watch the other shows. I believe T.O. is down here. I believe Ham Radio Dude is down here. Coffee and Ham Radios are going to be doing a special tie-in Saturday morning and stuff like that. That is going to be down there. I know Jason is going to be down there, Ham Radio 2.0. Some of the other people are going to be down there. So don't be afraid. If you cannot physically or do you not want to come to Hamcation, if you're concerned about things like that, hey, totally understandable on there, but it's nice that the YouTube community and some of the manufacturers are going to be able to bring Hamcation to you in a virtual setting on there. So take care, everyone. I'm going to maybe do some short clips. My hope is to get out into, knock on wood, get out into the flea market area and kind of show people about like flea market and stuff like that. Because you know what the neat part, one last thought about Hamcation here is, Hamcation is really cool because it's not just all about amateur radio. I've gone to Hamcation and I have found stuff for my business radio, my public safety radio, GMRS radios, all those kind of things like that on there. So do not hesitate to, not just classify, hey, that guy that lives in the basement and talks to China and all the Mongolias, he eats Velveeta shells and cheese. Yeah. No, we're not that. We're not. Well, the camera makes me look pasty white. But with that being said, a lot of people are going to be bringing it to you. So have your favorite YouTuber on there. Go ahead and search things up on there. There's going to be a lot of people that are broadcasting there. Make sure you check out my friends on the YouTube channels that are out there. They do a good job on it, and we're going to go from there. So until then, 73, stay safe. I can't even talk. Stay safe. And by the way, I was able to actually have a cigar tonight. Before the show, I ran down, and granted, the smoking area was outside in the area uncovered where it was pouring rain and everything like that. So I kind of stood underneath the awning a little bit there and did it. But it was great to actually be in an area where it wasn't that cold and I could have a cigar. But anyways, 73, stay safe. And if you have a cigar, smoke them. We will catch up with you later on this week as well as next week on our normal time. So good evening, everyone.